You can name a winner. Okay, let's get seated, and maybe people from the lobby can come on in and we can get going here. Denise, just stay there. Where's John? Did you see John? Okay, very good. Okay, let's get going. Last conference or last session of the day. Before we get going, I'd like to point out two people that have been doing absolutely incredible efforts, especially Denise Girdner, who is standing at the back. Denise is the heartbeat of our organization, especially at conference time, and she does a lot of great work for us, and she's very friendly and very helpful, and we're lucky to have Denise and also John McGregor also as well. The 50/50 seller with Peter Toker, and John also helping out in troubleshooting. So those are, as well as Tara, who's also doing the social media. Tara, you want to give a wave? So that's MFGA staff that have been working hard for you behind the scenes. Very important. Gives me great pleasure to introduce our next MFGA session host. He was a 2023 inductee into the MFGA Wall of Fame. He is a regular blog writer for our e-bulletin. We call his blog Thoughts from the Field, or On-Farm Thoughts, sorry. And he's very much been a key part of the organization's conference, especially from a guest speaker and panelist and that type, throwing it together, along with our conference co-chairs, of course, who you'll hear about later or hear from later. So with no further from me, it gives me great pleasure to bring up our MFGA session host, Larry Wegner, to introduce the panel. That was Larry Wegner's idea. So we are working it very well here. So Larry.
Thanks, but I have to be honest, it was not my idea for this conference, this part of it. This was Maxwell, my son. After going home last year, he said, Dad, we keep talking about bringing things in for new producers. How do we keep and making it so they can adapt? What about us guys that grew up doing regenerative practices? How do we build on what we've already got? So I put that forward, and this is the plan, and this is the segment we got. And because of this, Max has to sit on the panel with us. Max's mother has informed me that I am not to pick on him, because she'll come up and beat me up. So, too bad. So can I get the panelists please come up and get started?
Campbell from and luckily Catherine, that's her promise. And today, let's start out welcome to the company there with passion. I'm really excited to be joining you at the Regenerative conference in Manitoba, in November, where we discuss what it's like to be a second generation rancher or cultivation practitioner. And part of the Frey. Look forward to our discussion and greetings from Beernaert.
Hi, I'm Beernaert. I live in Hartland, Manitoba with my wife, Chelsea, and my son, Theo. We farm 3,500 acres with my dad and mom, Kevin and Dale, between Ellery and Hartland. We grew here in short-term crops, including grain, corn, beans, oat, wheat, rye, canola, and soybeans, and I hope that many others of them. Our various deployment types and quality has given me a wide range of challenges and impact solutions, and we try to share with our farming community. I have a mission to educate and research the impact of conventional farming practices and try to work out where regenerative and sustainability meet. I have confidence in future farming generations' ability to adapt and look forward to the introduction of new technologies that can reduce the negative impact on our soil and increase the quality of our finished product. Please enjoy the conference and keep an open mind, never stop learning. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marika, and I'm the Executive Director for Ainsworth. I live and work on my family farm in Beernaert, Manitoba, with my friends, students, and Dewar-Norosky, and my wonderful colleagues.
I am Master Wegner. I'm the second generation here at Regenerative now. I have a background in commercial management and have followed regenerative practices and operations started in 2001 when I was college. We are currently running 100 companies.
Okay, so that's the basic of our panel. I thought I'd give you a little introduction about what actually is Regen Ag. First, we have to understand that this is what Blaine Jurgis told me once, many years ago, that sustainability means to sustain. It means status quo, no change. It's like going to the old boys club. Nothing new, nothing happens, everybody's good. Regen, we're trying to change, we're trying to make things better, and we don't do it with inputs. We do it with increasing our biggest asset on the farm, which is our mind. I recently got involved with a discussion group on Facebook, and somebody had said that Regen Ag didn't work and was belittling it. And this is what I wrote back. In Regen Ag, there is no true definition. So everyone has a definition of Regen Ag, good or bad. Reality is it's a movement for now. Everyone thinks they have a handle on Regen Ag. Someone brings up a new view or concept and opens the door and moves it further along. My view is that Regen Ag is a collection of concepts and disciplines that the producers can use to become more profitable through the use of soil monitoring, increasing the soil organic levels. By increasing the number of tools in our toolbox, nothing is removed from the toolbox, but is being able to use the right tool, the right time, for the right reasons. The best tool that we can use in regenerative ag is our minds. And that is how we have to look at it and deal with the problems that always seem to come up. An open conversation on any topic always brings up new ideas, and some will come from left field. Okay, so in my view, Regen Ag is based out of a lot of different concepts or principles. There's no-till, organic, holistic management, ranching for profit, permaculture, different styles of compost, Albright method, natural Korean farming. The One Straw Revolution was a book that caused its own revolution of people doing the same principles. But basically, it's all about lifelong learning. So as we get started here, I'll just have each of the panelists come up and we're going to talk, and we're going to do this. In your discipline that you've backgrounded, what do you learn from the MFGA conference? We'll start on the organic side.
Testing one. Okay. I think the biggest takeaway for me from this conference has been the need for cattle on my land. It's a plan that we've already put in place for next year to take some of our land out of crop production and to use it for grazing, to give the soil that time to regenerate, to build carbon in our soil. While we are tilling as an organic grain farm, we're not giving the soil the chance to do that. And I've believed that all year, and having a whole conference of like-minded people and presenters that are preaching that to me only affirms that that is the right way to go.
I think an underlying current that I've heard time and time again, not just here, but that I definitely heard multiple times here, is about the journey through lifelong learning. So while you can get submersed in a culture, whether that's, holistic management, ranching for profit, any one of those organizations or movements that you named, there is no mastery because the target is ever moving. So the commitment to becoming a lifelong learner is one of being open-minded to things change. My practices need to follow suit.
Max?
For us, like the conference has been a big part of us opening and looking at things differently. I don't know if I could narrow anything down to how it's really going to affect anything yet, because we do, as I've found, we do not really grasp our ideas until a week later when we think about it again and understand, rethink about it enough times to realize that our thought process and what we've taken away from the conference until a time later.
Nathan?
I think that there's a lot that everybody can learn from everybody around them here today. I've always done a really good job of trying to network and learn as much as I can from a lot of different individuals around myself at these conferences, taking the different viewpoints that somebody has from a completely different situation, and being able to take that back to my farm and say, well, why won't this work on my farm? Why can't I be successful doing these things? And also being open with myself about the failures that I've had and say that, this is just my first attempt in learning, and that this is where a stepping point that I can go forward, and then having the resources to be able to say, where do I go from here? And I think that that's really helpful in being able to have the resources and people that have had those questions before and have maybe tried solutions, and whether they have worked or not, that's up to time to tell, but I think that that's always a good takeaway for myself as well.
Nathan, hang on, we've got another one for you. What can MFGA do to engage you more as an experienced producer in Regen Ag?
I think that a lot of the programs that are available are very well suited to a lot of different farming operations. I'd like to see a lot of the technology, a lot of the changes in current applications of things, whether it's fertilizer, I know sometimes that's a bad word, but decreasing salt contents of things like that, decreasing our impact in our soil that we can use while still being able to feed a conventional crop is a massive improvement from where we've been in the past. Increasing those levels, that's a huge thing that I think is a great place to start, and definitely a big worry in the future if things don't change in a positive direction.
Max?
I think that if MFGA keeps bringing in speakers that address to the point of the soil biology and bringing it back to the fact that everything starts from the roots base up and bringing it home, so that it is not just inclusive just to cattle guys, and that it includes everybody from, like we had today, this conference with our potato guys right through to everybody else. As long as we keep addressing it and making it as open so that we can have as many people and as many diverse conversations in through the MFGA program, we'll definitely keep a lot of people coming back and understanding the principles that Regen has pushed forward and where it can go. Thanks.
Seth?
Every movement has a trajectory, and the initial adopters, it takes time. So I would say on our operation and in the Regen movement, holistic management practitioners in Canada at least had the experience of swimming upstream. And so the first part of the movement is those early adopters having to push against convention. So the way I consider it, my father-in-law, Don Campbell, spent a lot of his time breaking the mold. And MFGA or conferences like this and the regenerative movement can help that transition of those that sort of lift the torch to those that carry the torch. And that movement, then the second phase or the next phase is in how we get the message out. So, the first generation breaks the ice, and then the second generation sails. So we've got to get that message out, and MFGA and conferences like this can help us bring the public view to a tipping point where all of a sudden regenerative ag is being talked at dinner tables for people who live in the city and not just people who work on the land. So that's my hope anyway.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll mirror that in part of upholding voices. I know a conference like this is so valuable to me personally because of all of you getting to talk to producers and what are you doing on your farm and what's working for you, and also what are your failures. I am relatively new to taking over the farm, which has been organic for 30 years, and we've been maintaining something that's really comfortable, but I want to try some new things. I want to be regenerative. I want to push the boundaries of what's happening, and the chances of failing is high whenever you do something that you're uncomfortable with, something that you're changing the game. But to have a community of voices of farmers that have tried this before, that have succeeded or had a bad year but pushed through and kept going, those are the voices that I need to be hearing to affirm that what I'm doing matters, and even if it doesn't succeed my first try, it's going to work out.
Okay, I got a question for you now. Do you have a network of like-minded producers that you can bounce ideas off in your own group at home?
I think that network is growing every week, especially with events like this where I get to network with a lot of farmers. I think it could always be bigger. That network is something since moving back to the farm that I've actually been struggling to find. It's hard. I think we all like to farm on our own land in a little bit of a silo where we are in control of what we're doing, and it is an active effort to go out and pursue it. So any advice or any more community, I'm always welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I have some advice for you. No, I'm just kidding. So in sort of the same vein of talking about, the people who lit the torch and sort of broke the ice, that for the level of support that it requires, and I'm going to use that word very intentionally, that it requires in order to have the courage to make those decisions, is often found in the peer learning network and support. So when I mentioned that MFGA could help create, this space for us to get the message out, my personal commitment is that I will try to be doing that at the same time. So on a personal level, in our own operation and our ranch, I'm trying to get that message out. And one of the ways I do that is in helping communities generate that level of peer support. So there's a bunch of knowledge. We obviously learned a lot of tools and great information at a conference level, but then we need to empower people to go back to their communities and actually put that into practice. And that can be scary. That initial, the validation needed to have somebody standing behind you say, yep, I'm here in case it doesn't work. Creating that kind of community around you is very hard, and it's a very intentional practice. So helping people develop that circle of support, I think, is an incredible gift that we can give one another.
I would say that I would have a very good support group of like-minded people who I can bounce ideas off of. We have within our community of Lenore, the Lenore Grazing Club, which has been a tremendous club to actually go out and see what people do and how they are doing it. And it is a very open-minded group that we can go and converse with and bounce ideas off of. With Regen Ag expanding its views, and me being a younger guy, I've actually found a lot of younger producers that are like-minded, that have become very close friends of mine, that are also there, that we get together fairly often and we discuss what we're doing and different ideas. And so support-wise, yes, it's been a very easy thing to find support within peers and other people around. That is not just conference.
You just like the bus tour where all the beer's on.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that it's nice to find a group of people that can be supportive and kind of bounce ideas off. Sometimes you have to also accept that sometimes some of your ideas might go against the grain and that you might be the black sheep. You have to understand that you have to believe in your ideas enough so that you can tell yourself if you fail that how did you fail and what are you going to learn from this and where do you go from here. I think that it's old and young. There's a lot to learn from all the different experiences and the different types of farming that are available in our province. We're very lucky and fortunate to have a wide range of crop availabilities and different levels of producers and size and commitment and styles that we do have in this province. And to share that in the world, I think that this part of the world's pretty well renowned for our style of farming. I think we do a pretty good job, but there's always more to take from other parts of the world as well, and just to kind of keep our eyes open on things that are happening, whether it's just across the border or somewhere in another part of the world, that just because it's 1,000 miles away doesn't mean that it might not apply on your farm as well. So there's no level to a maximum of the community that you can build. And I think that everyone just needs to be open about sharing their ideas and their problems and trying to come to a solution. Because I think that there's a lot of different opinions out there, and some are helpful and some are not. And you just have to be able to understand what your truth is and what point or which direction you want to have your operation or what regenerative farming looks like on your farm.
Thank you, Nathan. Here's another one for you, Nathan. As an ag producer, what skills do you need to be improved?
I think that there's a lot of communication to the level of between different ag groups. I think that a lot of them are trying to promote the same message, and there's a lot of common ground. I think that there's a lot of money and direction for that can be consolidated a little bit better, or have a little bit more communication between these groups to a common goal. I think that generally a lot of the people in this room and people that are involved in regenerative ag have a positive idea of where they want to take things and how they want to bring back to their community, to their soil, and potentially to their farm. And I think that's kind of the stepping point.
Thank you. Max?
I would have to agree with Nathan on that a lot. He pretty much summed it up. It's just, there's a lot out there. If they could just come together a bit more and make it a little simpler and a bit more easy for people to understand, would be ideal. There's so many programs and it's so hard to know which program to take up.
I'm going to throw my whole ranch under the bus here and not just say it's something I need to do, but I'll own my part in that. As we've heard over the last couple of days, the story is the message that needs to be told over and over again. But also what I heard is that it needs to be data-based. We've been practicing, planned grazing, financial planning based on our own goal or context for 35 years on the BBRC ranch. And I'm not sure we have a single soil sample to be able to say, this is what we've done with our soil organic matter. We know, and so far that has been enough, that it has almost tripled our carrying capacity on our ranch for our cattle. So we know it works. And we're not really in the business of trying to prove to everyone that it works. If you come to our place, we'll tell you all about it, how it's been successful for us. And we do want to share that success. It's actually written in our context to share our ideas and experiences with others in the community. But what I'm hearing is that that's only good for the neighbor. But when it comes to changing policy and perhaps, some legislation down the road, that we're going to need the facts and figures to back that up. So what we'd like to improve, what I would like to improve and what they don't know yet that's coming is that somehow, BBRC Ranch becomes part of a project that we don't necessarily have to take it on our own, but that our peer support group, the Plan Holistic Management Club, we have a management club, that our 6 families maybe can join together and say, hey, you know what, we've been doing this combined for over 150 years. Maybe there's somebody who's interested in doing a research project in our collective, about our collective in our area. And then we would have some of that to support. So that's what we can be doing to hone our skills, is to have the database research.
Yeah.
Thank you. That, I think, is a beautiful answer. Mine's very simple. I think as farmers, we are farming, but we're also marketing, and we're becoming data analysts, and now we are soil stewards and wetland stewards, and we're doing all of these things. And I don't know about all of your farms, but on mine, we're also mechanics, and we're keeping our machinery running on my dad's sheer will and determination. And if that man decides to retire, I am screwed. So I need to become a mechanic, and that is the skill I need to work on the most, and I have 5 years to do it.
Okay, for the next part of this, we're just gonna have analysts be able to ask each other questions about their operations and how they, as second generations, have come along. I'm gonna ask Nathan this one. Last year, we talked about you trying to manage the moisture on your land with no-till. Have you been successful with that this year? And what are you doing with that?
Yeah, I think that when I first kind of aspired into no-till and kind of followed in my dad's footsteps, there was a man from North Dakota that asked me, he said, "So do you think you have it all figured out yet?" And I said, "Well, we're starting to get there." He's like, "No, do you think you have it figured out?" I was like, "Well, I think we're heading in the right direction. I think we have this kind of figured out." He's like, "You have nothing figured out yet." He said that, "Do you know anything about high water crops?" And I was like, "What do you mean high water crops?" He said, "Crops that use higher amounts of water, because in a no-till direct seeding system, you are acquiring more water, you are saving more water, but water is also detrimental to a system in high amounts. If you are not using adequate amounts of water that you are storing in your soil or finding a way to outlet that water, it will cause issues in certain systems." And we have been able to try to reduce or increase our high water crops. Actually using crops like grain corn was really detrimental, bringing that into our rotation, getting those deeper roots into our soil. Most of the reason we brought it into our rotation was from the benefits after using it, not sheerly from the benefits of just growing corn, because it is also a fairly profitable crop as well on its own, but just by the sheer advantages that we had from increases in water holding capacity, through deeper rooting, and from the benefits that directly carried into the years after that, being able to break into that hard pan region and do that without being as invasive or using steel as much was a very important thing, and being able to have some of those options to be a little more competitive in our fields as well has really changed the way that we look at how our soils operate and what our soils need from us in a year-to-year basis and over a long period of time as well. The last couple of years with the drought scenarios haven't been as much of a detriment on our farm, just from the availability that we've pretty much been preparing for scenarios like this for the last 25 years. So it was almost an advantage to us rather than a disadvantage.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Bluesette, I got a question for you. You're in the shadow of Don Campbell. How do you find your own identity going forward and not fall in his shadow?
They are extremely big shoes to fill. So I decided early on that I just wouldn't try, because I don't think that actually pays or is honorable, honestly. He was a force, is a force, but the wake of his existence is amazing. So in that shadow, so to speak, I had to do a little bit of soul searching about what my unique gifts and talents are to bring to the movement. And thankfully, I found some. So that's really great. And so my process is that Dawn as an educator, there's an avenue and there's a bit of a void, but that the avenue that I choose is going to be in somewhat of a different direction along the same thread. So I'm still teaching a lot of the same principles of holistic management and helping practitioners around Western Canada and the US. But my skill set comes from that experience of being second generation and also being a woman, and also coming from my background, which was really difficult in agriculture, and the experience of not wanting to be in agriculture at all, and having those regenerative and holistic management practices shine a light on a way that can actually be profitable and contribute to my quality of life.
Okay, on your place where you're organic, how do you set your own path going forward as a, like your dad set the trail up, where are you going, where's your trail going?
I think my dad did a really beautiful time or job of transitioning at a time where it was not as common. We certified in '92, so we're 30 years of organic crop management. And I think because he's been doing it for so long, there's so many avenues to improve on that practice. If you have not changed what you're doing every single year, no matter what type of farm you are, the technology continues to grow. And this man's ready to retire. He's happy. So there are, if anything, so many ways for me to pave a way forward that is implementing all of the research, all of the practices that organic farmers are doing to be more regenerative, no-till organic being a very unachievable feat in my eyes right now, but one that I want to try to do. I want to show that I can grow grain in a sustainable, regenerative way, an organic principle. And that's not something a lot of farmers have been able to do, but one that I'm going to dedicate some of my life to trying. And I think that will be my own path.
Thank you very much. Okay, Max. Let's hear your story on why regenerative ag is so valuable to you.
I think that regenerative ag is valuable because going forward, if it wasn't for regen ag, most producers would have to get out. The conventional system does not support a multi-generational farm unless you're huge. So with regenerative ag, it is a way for the medium-sized farmer who's still practicing mixed practices to stay in the industry, keep himself going and moving forward, and creating a opportunity for future generations to step back into the land and take over, whereas if it was conventional ag, I don't know if the opportunities would be there. With the way that conventional ag has gone is bigger and doing more, and Regen has at least provided a lifestyle where young people are actually interested in stepping back into the industry and moving forward, and it has the potential to have a very profitable future to keep them going.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody's got any questions, please go up to the stands, put to the mics. I got one more question for the group here. When I took Nicole Masters' course, we talked about Regen Ag being on a pinnacle from going from innovator, and where you know how the bell curve goes kind of up slowly, then all of a sudden it just shoots right up and then it levels back off. We were talking about it, we believe that there is a crevice between those early adapters and mainstream. So movements always come along, but how do we get that shot over that crevice, keep going to the mainstream to keep the movement going? So what are you thinking there? Is that?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm trying through the practice of education. I think education is a key piece. I can't remember who said it earlier, but you can't tell people what to do. Was that the agrologist who said, like, they don't like to be told what to do? So I think there has to be a climate and a desire, an interest, a proclivity to want to change. And maybe it's bankruptcy. You know, maybe it's a large farm and no succession plan was put in place and nobody wants to take it over. Maybe it's so this point of adversity that would drive it from early adopters and innovation into mainstream, is that something has to be done, or this is the end of the line for our family legacy. So I guess my focus is on helping that transition, that transfer or succession planning from one family to the next, so that there actually still are people living on the land successfully. And the other efforts that I'm putting into is education for people who do not live on the land. So every opportunity I get, have multiple connections in large cities across North America. So when I go to visit my friends in New York City, Washington, DC, or Florida, they're getting an earful. One of my friends who works, she worked for the New York Times and then for the Washington Post for quite some time. I bent her ear a lot, not because I wanted to convince her, but I wanted her to know that there were multiple sides to the story. And I think that's ultimately how we get to the mainstream, is we can't just sit here. I mean, this support, this energy at this conference is remarkable. But we're all singing together, right? We're preaching to the choir, so to speak. So there's a challenge to each one of us to be going out there and talking to not the people that validate or support our opinions already, but those that don't. And the ability to have this uncomfortable discourse, mature adult conversation. I know it's hard, but that's where we're going to get some opened eyes. Like me sitting here telling you, like, this is a really great way to go, have a goal, get a financial plan, apply these practices on your operation. We've already won that battle. That's why we're here. So having that really uncomfortable conversation with the neighbor, when you ask them if you could go onto their land to take a soil sample, right? You all ask your neighbors if you can go and compare their water infiltration. No, you probably don't. But it is an opportunity to go and say, hey, I want to know what my practices are doing on my place. I'm going to take a little grain auger piece that Ralph Corcoran built for me, and I'm going to pour 500 mils of water, and I'm going to time it. Do you want to come out and do that with me? And if they say no, well, then you're likely to get shot when you go out and do that. But there's an opportunity, and maybe they don't take it. Maybe they don't, because they're not ready, or they don't want to, or they think you're crazy. That's fine. There are over 8 billion people in this world, so I'm sure somebody is willing to have that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have much to add. I think that was great. Growing up as an organic farmer, I think I've had that conversation a lot with a lot of different people and finding some kind of common ground. We're trying to feed the world. All of my urban friends have gotten maybe a tad tired of hearing about agriculture because it's important. It's a conversation I have. My partner, who I love dearly, and I just had a talk last week about it's not the cow, it's the how. He didn't know. I don't know how. I think I did a disservice. But people don't know, and people are open to having a lot more conversations than we give our neighbors credit for. We just need to go and try.
Thank you. Nathan?
How many people here are just going to go home and next year going to put in 1,000 acres of grain corn? Anybody here? No? Well, that's what I did this spring, and that was not an easy feat to do. That's not an easy thing to get rid of. Being a small farm, and it's a hard thing to manage, and lots of people will say, like, well, how do you get through that? How do you do that? How do you do that without the bin storage? How do you do that without millions of bushels of bin storage and a perfect system? It's all in pieces, and it's part of a system that I see the benefits of, and that is what I'm working towards. And lots of people might not see it that way, and it's a lot more work than what is typically found in a lot of farming operations in our area, but I can see the benefits from it. I can see the benefits of it 6 years down the road from starting into that, and that's more than enough for me to keep going at it. I hope that I can change other producers' mind to moving into similar things that benefit their farm, even if it is a little bit more work, a little bit, little bit more against the grain. And I think that that's kind of what I've been working towards in my farming community and with the people around.
Thank you. Max?
I think I agree a lot with what Bluesette said, but if you're gonna push through the next bell curve to really promote Regen Ag, we need to get Regen Ag into schools. We need to show the young people that there is a way, there is a future, and that there is good food and ways to grow it, and have them understand so that when they get to that point where they can come in and spend their consumer dollars, it's going back towards Regen Ag where we can make a go with it and continue to push our farms forward. Changing people's paradigms is a very difficult thing. So why change it if we can? Let's just go straight to where they don't have one yet and get them on board.
That's it. Brainwashing.
I think they call that brainwashing, I'm pretty sure.
Can add to that. I don't know how many people are rural here, but who had ag in the classroom or some kind of ag programming come to their school as a kid? Not a lot of us. If you grew up in my community and you were a town kid, you weren't on a farm, you might not have learned anything about agriculture. We are not doing a service. I offered, one of my friends is an early years educator at an elementary school in Winnipeg, and I'm going to do ag in the classroom work with them as a volunteer next Wednesday. I volunteered to do her group of 8-year-olds, and I'm a little terrified. And 4 more teachers asked if I can go talk to their class. They have not had this service for years. None of these kids have learned anything about agriculture. They all live in the city, and they don't know what canola looks like. This is a service that if you have the capacity or the time, even rural schools, volunteer. Talk to them about what Regen is. Talk to them about what your farm is doing. Talk to them about why this is important, because that is the next generation of farmers. I think that was a really good point to bring up.
Max tried this when he was in grade 3, grade 4. He insisted we bring the baby lamb to school to show everybody his Suffolk lamb. So we brought the lamb to school, put a towel around it so it was nice and clean. We showed it off. Most of them were good, but then the school got complaints that we brought a dirty lamb to school. So yeah, it's a catch-22. But at least, we helped them, we embraced a little change, and we did what we can. But yeah, that's a good place to start. Does anybody have any questions out there?
I'm standing here, Larry, if you can see me.
No, but you can go right ahead.
I just want to make a comment. I think every one of us should be going to schools, our local schools, and talking to whatever class wants to see us about what we do. I know I do that at our school every single year, and they're usually happy to see me come. I find I get a very good response every year, and the teachers are ecstatic. It's something different, it's a little bit different approach. And I know we're all a little bit intimidated. We think, well, I don't know enough to do that. Just talk about what you do on your own farm. You'd be absolutely amazed, and I think Max is absolutely right. We need to start at we need to brainwash them before they have paradigms.
Okay, is anybody else got a question?
Sure, glad you brought up that ag in the classroom. Just an experience of my hometown. This is going back 15 years ago. Both my kids are in elementary school, and you know how they're sent home papers and parents never really see them until Sunday when you're looking for their lunch kits. And I brought it out, and Wednesday of that week was going to be kind to animals, don't bring meat to school. And well, I just blew a gasket. I'm a cattle producer, and we've got a teacher that lives in Brandon telling my kids not to bring meat on Wednesday because that's cruel. So we got Manitoba beef producers on board that night. Calls were going left, right, and center where the email was hot. Big speed of rivers there on our internet. It was just giving her. But we had ag in the classroom within a week. I think from Minnedosa, Joanne came down the next week, and I went to every classroom and read them a book and left them a book for their library. That teacher that put the thing in kind of did it without the principal's knowledge. He didn't attend to any of those meetings. He was set in his ways. We also had ag in the classroom come and do a breakfast for all the kids. So we had beef, canola growers, wheat producers, honey. We had everyone there. Pork producers. You know what? I kind of forgot about it because my kids are out of school now, and we haven't been back since. And I think that needs to be something you got to remind in everyone's community, wherever you're from. If we can show the kids, like a lot of these kids didn't know that they were getting bacon, it was from a pig. I can't believe that because we're from a rural community. We have a lot of kids that don't know anything about the farm. And it's hard to believe because we live in agriculture, so we know it. I even have friends from Winnipeg that came out, and my friend says, "Oh, there's Uncle Brian. What is he doing?" And they said, "He's seeding." I was actually combining. And they were 10 years old. And he says, "Oh my God, I never told my kids about agriculture, obviously." So that's a great point that you brought that up, because I think people forget to go back, and it's kind of sparked me again that maybe I've got to get back to my hometown schools. I can't believe Newdale people don't know about agriculture because there's only 6 of you up there.
Schools, school divisions are many bureaucracies, just like many larger government organizations. Our local school, we had invited, they began a land-based learning program before they closed about 3 years ago. And so for about 2.5 years, we did not have any resistance because the administrator was on board and really wanted to get these kids out on the land. So we would bring them out in the fall when we had the bale grazing pods out and dig in the dirt with the shovels and count the bugs and do all the things, and then bring them back in the spring again after using those bale pods and digging in manure. I couldn't believe there was like maybe 2 individuals who didn't want to get dirty, but for kids being kids. So there was a really great opportunity, but the amount of pushback that principal got for his land-based leadership in this area was remarkable. And we're in a rural town. I mean, this was a school of less than 50 kids, but it wasn't the people whose kids were attending. It was the outside people that were not attending, the parents of those kids that were not attending, that had a real problem with this. And they tried to shut it down, like, we don't have money for the school bus to do field trips. We don't, we can't. And I really don't understand the mentality. So I know that there's resistance, but I think the key is in finding somebody who buys in and allows you to have that breakfast and allows you to go into the classroom and read the book. And so once you find that, I would say, chase it full speed ahead.
Don?
Yeah, I had a shocking experience here about 10 years ago. And it had to do with the rural urban split or knowledge divide there. And my sister is a minister in Winnipeg, or was a minister in Winnipeg at that time, and she brought their youth group out to the farm. So they're coming, of course, we're a beef operation, so we had a cow and a calf in, and they petted the horses, and I don't think I dug a plug of dirt out of the ground to show them because they're all teenagers though. Anyway, because they're about not too long before they were going to leave, she suggested we go look at Big Diane's garden. And I would have bet the whole grass, but these kids would know more than we did. We went out, and the first thing we did was shelled some peas. Whoa, wow, that's peas. They had no idea that the peas grew on vines and they were in pods. And then we pulled carrots out of the ground and potatoes, and they're going, oh, wow, cool, And how can teenage kids that live 120 miles from me, and it's all agriculture between me and them, how can they be so illiterate about what happens in agriculture and growing produce on the farm, and what feeds them every day of the year? And they have no idea where a pea or a strip of bacon comes from, or milk. They didn't know Lawrence produced milk. And so I don't know what we do, but it's very concerning to me that, no wonder we have watching CBC the other night, and two of the ladies we're concerned about animal production, and they've got the audience of all of Canada in front of them, and these things are allowed to happen. Inhumane it is to have animals. It just blows my mind how illiterate our, and not that they're stupid or not trying to be degrading or anything else to our urban population, but we've done a very, very, very poor job of letting them know how we grow their food and the care and love it takes to produce these products for them. So I guess I would challenge the MFGA and Manitoba cattle producers and canola growers, wheat growers, all the organizations in agriculture to maybe we need to push harder jointly on doing something to bridge this gap between urban and rural.
Yeah, the biggest thing with that is that we accept Netflix's Cowconspiracy as gospel. And that's what we base it on. And that's entered into school with no problems, but yet we try to bring something in of a little different. Oh no, we can't be radical. We can't have anything that includes animals that we might use. So it's part of the game we have to play. Okay, for each of the panelists, you get to ask each one of the other panelists a question.
Well, I don't know if you noticed that my hair is a little more silver than any one of these folks out here. So I'm really curious to know if whoever wants to answer, if you feel like you're in the movement sort of alone, like that your practices are solely for your operation, or do you feel like you're part of a larger collective and part of a movement? Like, not that you feel morally obligated, but that you have a part to play in the spread of the regenerative message.
Go ahead, Max.
Having Max been a previous intern of ours, I'm also surprised. I second that motion. Come on, Max, let's go.
I think that every operation has a story to tell, and that it is up to them on how they present that story and to who they present their story the way that they want to do it. I don't know that I don't think anybody feels alone in the way that they stand as their own operations. Everybody does everything differently, but we are all pushing towards a similar goal in just a different means of an approach.
Would you please?
I think I get to have a bit of a unique stance being the director for Manitoba Organics and working with a lot of organic farmers as a network. And I get a really large community access because of that. And I think that is shaping a lot of how I want to do my farm, because I get to see some really, really good farmers that are practicing regenerative organic farming, and they're doing it well. And I also get to see some farmers that are kind of stuck and going, this isn't working for us. We are just going to continue with excessive tillage. We're going to continue with the way we've been farming for years because we're making a profit and it works. And to that, I feel like it's shaped the way I want to do my farm in a little bit of a, okay, bet. I'm either going to be humbled really hard at trying to do this, or I'm going to be successful in showing that you can farm organic regeneratively. And it's shaping a lot of how I want to do my farm, is how I want to be involved in my community.
Being a conventional farmer, I've really taken notice to a lot of the products and the inputs that we use on our farm and how they affect the long-term viability of our farm and our soil. So seeing some technologies, that are identifying weeds in a field in a sprayer and only spraying selective spots in the field and things like that. I think technologies like that have a huge detrimental effect into the future going ahead. Coming from a farm that covers, 30,000 acres with a sprayer every year, I would love to see that number be 2,000 acres and only be on target weeds that I'm trying to aim. I think that would be an amazing thing that would impact, and I think that a lot of people have a hold of spraying crops, covering them with herbicides, and they're not wrong. If we can be doing our part to kind of minimize that and lower that, and understand why that's important, and understand the chemistry and how these things can work to benefit us, I think that's a huge impact. That going ahead, I expect more things like that to show up, and I think that we have to do our job of expressing how important those things are and how those technologies can come to the front, and whether we can have support or be able to better understand or spread the message about those different technologies going ahead, I think is very important. Farmers traditionally have a very, we think of ourselves as, fast adapters of technology. The stats and the data would probably say otherwise. There's lots of very few select farmers that are using a lot of it, but a majority of the farmers are very slow to come to adopting many of those practices on their own farm. So I think being able to tell the story as a farm that is trying to use as many of those practices as possible to see the positive and negative is really important, and trying to share that with our fellow farmers and people in the industry is so important, even if they are not personally involved in farming themselves.
Go ahead.
Have my question. So growing up regenerative, growing up with these practices, but also we're all in the boat of succession planning and having taken over a farm that has been managed and managed well. Everyone I've talked to has stories of stepping on our predecessors' toes and trying to do that handover with grace. And some of them go really well and some of them less so, but even the ones that go spectacularly, there's some friction and some conflict. I think that is part of a handover. What are some ways you guys have mitigated some of that friction?
Pick who you want to answer.
Oh, I don't get to just have everyone answer.
Well, who do you want to start with?
Okay, Bluesette,
Oh, family friction, so much fun. I should write a book.
You got
Family
one?
friction is so much fun.
1 minute.
Oh, okay. Addressing, calling it for what it is. I mean, announcing it out loud. I think we're really fortunate. My husband and I and my brother-in-law are really fortunate because Don, my father-in-law, has really put a concerted effort of not getting in the way. Almost to the point where we're like, dude, can we get some direction here? Like, we're flailing, please help. But the wisdom is in knowing that's our generation's challenge, is to figure it out ourselves and not rely on somebody to tell us what to do. So if there is any friction, if we decide to do something that is not necessarily endorsed by the older generation, is to talk about it. And as much as, especially my husband doesn't like to talk about things like that, I think that's the way through it, is actually call it out.
Nathan?
Yeah, I think over the years, I've had a lot of ideas too that my dad has done a really good job of implementing in our farm. He's done a good job of implementing ideas himself. But now that the responsibilities kind of fell more onto my shoulders, and like you said about taking a step back, it's a little scary sometimes, taking the responsibility on your own shoulders for your own failures and for your own ideas. And making sure that that person is supporting you through those things, and making sure that you're asking for support when you need it, or that you're not sure about a decision, and finding the resources, whether it's through the community or sometimes online, through sources that you can get answers that not necessarily can validate your point, but can find a solution, can find something that you can work towards. Not all answers are answers.
Max? Outside of buying lottery tickets, what are you planning?
I think as far as friction for a generational transfer, it is difficult not to step on toes, especially trying to find a happy medium where both you can work forward and the generation can step back at their own pace. Because it's very easy for young guys to get very eager to step in faster and faster, and it's very difficult for the older generation to step back So you got to find a happy medium within your own operation and move forward at a rate that is comfortable for both. I think a lot of it just has to do with finding that area where you can fit everybody in and still make them feel included as the older generation steps out. Like Ian Stepler's grandfather, filling honey barrels. He found something that he could keep himself occupied, felt involved in the operation yet, but it wasn't an overly hard task for what he was after. I think that's the biggest thing, is just trying to find those jobs where it's not what the older generation wanted to still be doing day to day, but it still keeps them involved.
Okay, thanks. Okay, this is the wrap up for our day. Anybody got any last comments? Are we all good? This time we'd like to, close up. Yeah, we're gonna shuffle off here. We'll get some pictures taken.
Thank you, guys. That was a great panel. What a great conference it has been these last 3 days. I believe the theme, Building a Legacy, was well represented and talked about through our different presenters over the days. The connection between soil and human health always piques my interest. I believe there are many more discussions to come as we progress, so does science, and we just continue to learn and understand the connections. Day 2, what a full day it was. The focus of discussion on pollination and bringing both life back to the farm and also the soil was really great.
And we were really happy and excited that we were able to share common ground with all of you, and being only the second organization and place that you could actually watch that movie here in Canada, and it isn't being spread released in the US either, so it was really exciting for us. And also, I hope everybody enjoyed today. I have to admit, I really enjoyed hearing where the quantity model has led to. I joined the organization 7 years ago, and it was just in kind of, I think, the phase 1 period, I think very beginning of phase 1 type of idea. And I'm really excited to see how it has progressed and where the potential future is for it. I mean, I hope everybody enjoyed learning a little bit about a different industry that maybe they wouldn't hear about otherwise with our little session with the potato producers. I know I always enjoy hearing Brendan's presentation because there's not a lot of speakers that talk about the whole carbon cycle, including that respiration portion. There's more and more people talking about it, but it's something that's often forgotten. And then, I mean, the panel before this, I always like hearing how the next generation is continuing to grow from the legacy that was built for them from the generation before. I know I'm in that situation, my brother as well. So it's nice to hear where other producers that are in the same position as us are thinking and going in the future.
I want to say thank you to each and every one of you who are still here and attended our conference, and continue to support MFGA and regenerative agriculture. I believe together we can make a change.
And with that, we'll hand it off to Duncan to do the final farewells.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Andrea. That was excellent recap. Sometimes when you get in the blitz mode of the conference, you forget a lot of those things. So thank you for recapping them so well. All right, this is it. I'm going to keep this brief, fast, furious, get you going. Special mention to our platinum supporters, especially General Mills, Dairy Farmers of Manitoba, the Credit Union Central. Excellent sponsorship, very, very appreciated. They were the best. They were very important to us. To our board, to our chair, Lawrence Knockhart, to our vice chair, Michael Duguid, And to the rest of our board of directors, as well as our conference committee, so capably chaired by Andrea Hamilton and Amber McNish, I thank you for all your support and thank you for all your hard work this last couple of days. Feedback, we're going to be reaching out to you for feedback about the conference. We do accept it. And we do read it, honestly. It's funny, that's how we figure out what to talk about a lot of times, is we're responding to feedback, but we do need it. We did, the movie was new, the fireside chat was new. We'll be reaching out to you in the next couple of days about what you think about that. To the speakers, as a collective group, they were outstanding. There was 8 of them. To the panels, they were local producers, local people, local agencies. Wonderful. It shows exactly why MFGA is able to land movies such as Common Ground, because we go out there and we say we are supporting and want to show this to the farmers of Manitoba that are doing great work. Howling Pro, Dean, wonderful. Great job on the AV, man. Those lights, next year I'm going to wear sunglasses, but it was wonderful. It was flawless. You helped us out. You didn't have a glitch. We had Terry Duguid on a really little screen. But that's the tech gremlins, right? So thank you very much for what you did. To the people at the Victoria Inn, I mean, we had them changing stages. Like, this isn't Rainbow Stage or something. This is, we had people up here lifting and stacking chairs. The food was really good. The catering, I thought, was top notch. So tip my cap to the Vic Inn staff. And the rest of it's easy. It's a very heartfelt and a sincere thanks to you. You traveled to be here. You took time from your farms. You took time from your families. You took time from your work to help us celebrate this great thing that you're all doing or you're all interested in. And just want you to just keep spreading the good word. We are looking for board members. We've had a couple that came up. We're interested. We have 1 application in. And we have a couple more that were passed out. So if you're interested in becoming part of this, if you want to have a voice in what we're doing, contact one of our board members, contact me. We'll probably be deciding in early January on our next steps on that. But to you, spread the word, buzz the buzz, vibe the vibe, safe travels, and thank you.